I recently realized, for the first time in my life, that I hated my grandfather.
Oh.
This was a surprise to me, because for most of my life, I hadn't felt anything for him at all. He died when I was very young. I even kept a picture of him above my television. A great shot of him with his first Ford Model T. It was taken in a park, right outside a park where I grew up, in Akron, Ohio, where he worked, where he lived with my grandmother, and where he worked for the Firestone Tire Rubber Company. He was a model employee. He never missed a day's work. And maybe that was why, when his wife, my grandmother, when she became violent at work due to schizophrenia, symptoms of it, he wouldn't go to help her. He left us to my mother. I guess it was something that he couldn't deal with. He worked there till he retired at the age of 65. And it was a difficult time for my family because there were several crises there. He lost his daughter, my father also, his son-in-law. One day, after he had been drinking in the basement, he came upstairs and got a gun from a cabinet and chased my grandmother. The house they lived in had a front door lock that was hard to get open. And that's where he caught her. He got her around the neck, and he put the gun to her head, and it slipped, and he fired. She fell down and played dead. And then he turned the gun on himself. My grandmother then put her hand over her mouth, walked through the living room, through the dining room, and into the kitchen, where she leaned over the sink and spat out the blood and the teeth, got her purse, and left. She was a tough lady. She survived. I remember her working the lawn. She would mow the lawn with a manual reciprocating push mower. She would tend the garden. She would put leaves and boards down to keep the bulbs from freezing in the winter. And we still make her stuffing at Thanksgiving. But schizophrenia is a debilitating illness, and the treatments at the time were also challenging. And so over time, she lost a lot of her personality, but not all of it. A girlfriend once asked me, what was my definition of love? And I had a hard time coming up with something, but then I thought back to when I was a boy, and I used to sleep. I used to take naps on the big ugly yellow couch in my mom's living room. And every time I'd wake up to find my grandmother holding a blanket over me to keep me warm while I slept. That simple act of caring, of kindness, of giving without expecting anything in return. My grandmother survived an attempt on her life and struggles with schizophrenia, but still was able to teach a little boy what it means to love.